Let's talk about a hip thrust. I do not like using a fixed machine for a hip thrust, so I use a Smith machine. And yes, this can function the same way as a hip thrust machine. So first off, let's start flat on the ground where there is nothing underneath me and I'm just using a regular adjustable bench. I want you to notice the range of motion. I cannot go that high with a Smith machine when I'm doing a hip thrust. One of the reasons why you cannot go that high with a range of motion is because it is a Smith machine and they do have locks on the bottom. So, how can we improve the range of motion on a Smith machine for hip thrust exercises? Get a an adjustable step, okay? These are beneficial. These will become your best friend because they do help change your range of motion. And again, these put your feet higher up. They give you an advantage. Because if you ever look at a hip thrust machine, your feet are higher up and they are at an angle on a hip thrust machine. So let's improve our Smith machine by having our feet up higher to give us more range of motion when we're doing a hip thrust. Remember, when you're doing a hip thrust, the range of motion is key. The more you can go down, the better it is for the movement. Again, range of motion is important. Taking it into that deeper stretch is very beneficial. You want that. That's where you want it to improve. That's where you want it to stretch those muscles and make it harder when you're doing a hip thrust. So again, we're on a Smith machine doing a hip thrust. Let me change the point of view so you can really see what I'm doing here. Again, I'm not using any weight at the moment because I want you to understand the movement and the range of motion and everything else. And again, the starting weight on a Smith machine is like 30 pounds, I believe. I'd have to look into it again. I have looked into it before. I just don't remember off the top of my head. But again, hip thrusts are supposed to be slow and controlled movement where your pelvis is at neutral. You don't want to hyperextend. You can injure yourself if you don't execute this properly. You can hurt your knees. You can hurt your hips. You can hurt your back if you are not properly doing this. And if you want to improve the range of motion even more, get a slant board. Get you 2 of them. Again, this is where these slant boards do come in handy. They are very beneficial. So, with the slant boards on the step, put a weight in them so they don't move because you want stability. You don't want them sliding on you because you're going to be putting weight on and whatnot. So train smarter, okay? Train smart. You don't want injuries and you want everything to be stable. So that's what we're training for. Training smart. So again, back to the hip thrust. And when you're on a slant board, it does change the range of motion. So you do have to creep it back just a little bit. So again, find the perfect placement, find the right movement for your body, not anybody else's, but yours. And again, there's your range of motion. The deeper the movement and the deeper the range of motion, you can benefit from. But again, you don't have to take my word for it. Just go ahead and try it yourself and then you can thank me later. But I, again, don't want to start lightweight or start heavy, because I want to show you the movement, the mind muscle connection, the range of motion. When you're comfortable, add weight. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be adding weight. Again, it's always about range of motion, your mobility, your flexibility. That's the key to a better exercise, is your range of motion, is your flexibility. How good is it? How deep can you go to put stress on those muscles? Okay, and we're back. Now that I have the comfortable weight that I am like to use, because it is a different range of motion, because it is a deeper hip thrust, I'm doing what's comfortable for my body when it comes to weight. So again, proper feet placement, making sure your knees are moving correctly, your hips are doing the right movement, the right range of motion. Slow and controlled breathing. I am pushing through my heels instead of, some people will use their tippy toes. You don't want to do that. You really want to push through your heels and hold, lower, and then go back up. So yes, this is a deeper range of motion compared to the beginning. So if you want to improve your hip thrust, get you a step and then get a slant board. Check it out. Let me know what you think.